everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Audience Circle podcast, where we are informing the arts audience in Frisco. I'm Tammy Miner-Shagan, the chair of the Frisco Arts Foundation, and we have some very special guests today. They are not only friends, but I consider them arts family, the Dallas Summer Musicals. We're going to be joined by Ken Novice, who is the president of DSM, and Mike Richman, who's the VP of marketing at DSM. So a little bit more about the Dallas Summer Musicals. They are the largest producer of live theatrical entertainment in the Southwest and the winner of 6 Tony Awards, 2 Drama Desk Awards, and has been entertaining audiences since 1941. The DSM produces, presents, and promotes excellence in live musical theater with year-round performances for diverse audiences of all ages, impacting the lives of children and families through community outreach and education. Ken Novice is the president of Dallas Summer Musicals and is a seasoned theater management executive with over 3 decades of leadership experience. Ken's career includes organizations with rich cultural histories similar to Dallas Summer Musicals, including San Diego's The Old Globe and Circle Repertory Theater in New York. Mike Richman has been the vice president of marketing at DSM since 2018. Before that, he was the executive vice president of marketing ticketing programming at the AT&T Performing Arts Center, which is where we first met. He was also the VP and general manager of SNH Presents and the VP of Live Nation, the world's largest live entertainment company. So we have some incredible rock stars with us today. Let's bring them on. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure. It's our pleasure.
Pleasure to be here.
I know everyone would love to know how you got into the theater industry. Like, how did you even get bitten by the arts bug? Ken, do you want to take that question first?
Sure. Happy to. In our field, the answer to this question is probably the same. We all had some experience with theater as a child or as a young person. Mine, I was a little bit older. I was in high school, and I was randomly invited to see a production of Our Town, Thornton Wilder's play, and that's all it took. I was hooked. Got involved in high school theater, and then studied theater in college as well, and just had a blast with it. And it's been many, many years since then of career in the industry. But yeah, it starts when we're young, and that's a great thing about our theaters. If we can engage our young people, it's really good for the field and for students and what have you.
Exactly. Yes. Mike, how about you?
A similar story. All credit for my love of theater goes to my mom. When I was growing up in New Jersey, we were about a 45-minute train ride into Manhattan, and so my mom continued a tradition with me that her father had started with her, which was once a semester, we would both play hooky. She would call in sick to her job, and I would call in sick to school, and we'd take the train into the city, always on a Wednesday, which is a 2-show day. So we would see a matinee in the afternoon. Then we'd go to the same Italian restaurant, which is no longer around, called Mama Leone's, and have an early dinner, and then see a late show and take the late train back. I instantly fell in love with the magic, the transformative magic when that curtain goes up and the lights hit your face and you're taken somewhere else, whether it's to the land of Oz or the Deep South and Showboat. I just absolutely fell in love with the business and knew I had to be part of it in some way.
That's so wonderful. I know we're getting back to actual live shows again, and DSM was the first in the nation to actually bring back Broadway shows to the public. So congratulations on that, on being so forward thinking and innovative. Would love to know your experience with that and what you have seen with audiences and the changes.
Sure. Yeah, it was quite an honor for us to be able to be the first Broadway show in North America since the pandemic began. Just a remarkable kind of experience. We got a lot of interest, obviously, from not only our friends in Dallas, but all over the country. People wanted to know, how are you doing this, and how are you making it safe for people? And so we had the honor of being the leader in that, and it was a lot of work and a lot of learning. I say that putting on one evening of a show in the midst of a pandemic is about the same amount of work as putting on about 2 weeks of a run. So everything from how we keep the cast safe to how we keep audiences safe, really went into consideration there. And at the first performance, I walked up on stage to welcome the audience, and I was standing in the auditorium before that with our director of production, and I said, I'm going to walk up there and I'm going to say one word, and people are going to start clapping. And his name is Chris Cook. He goes by Cook. Cook said to me, "Nah, they'll be okay." I'm like, "No, just you watch." And I walked up, stood on the stage, put the microphone to my mouth, and I said, "Welcome," and they went bananas. The crowd was just clapping and cheering, and so I knew that was going to happen. The sort of pent up excitement and demand for theater, and particularly live theater. We crave that experience of being with others and seeing live theater on stage, and kind of the emotional pull that it has, and the meaning that it has for people. I think folks were really missing that, and the great stories and what have you. So to be able to do that, I mean, it was probably top 5 moments for me in my professional career that night. It was unbelievable.
I'm sure. Electrifying. Mike, how about from your perspective?
Well, as the head of marketing for the organization, my focus tends to be on, filling the seats. And, we were fortunate to kick off, as Ken said, with Wicked, which was the first show back on the road since the pandemic hit, and then follow that quickly up with a 3-week engagement of Hamilton. So we have 2 of the most popular titles on the Broadway circuit back to back coming out of the gate. But it wasn't necessarily a foregone conclusion that ticket buyers were going to be ready and willing to come back and sit in an auditorium with strangers all around them, given the state of the world. The great news is that we essentially sold out both engagements. Since we reopened on August 3rd with Wicked and concluded Hamilton last Sunday, we've put over 210,000 people through the music hall. To put that number, 210,000, in perspective, that's the equivalent of 2 sold-out Cowboy games at AT&T Stadium. And in some other Broadway markets, that's the equivalent of 2 years worth of attendance.
Wow.
That we've done just in our first 2 shows. So Dallas loves Broadway, and it's coming back in droves, and we're just so thrilled to have everybody back.
That's so exciting. And I mean, it was so special to be here in Dallas as it opened. And, my friends are, my family's in New York too. And they're like, what? That's so unfair.
Yeah, we beat New York to the punch. Yeah.
Actually, I think the only thing that got out there before we did was Bruce Springsteen opened his show on Broadway.
Yeah, that's right.
But we sort of considered that, his one-man show. So we still said we were the first Broadway show in North America, even though Bruce did get out there before we did.
We
put an asterisk next to it.
Yeah.
So, you guys are called Dallas Summer Musicals. However, you do musicals throughout the year, and you do other educational programming.
Yeah. Interesting. You should mention the word summer, because we do talk about that quite a bit. It's funny, when I moved to Dallas for this job, people said, "Why are you moving to Dallas for a summer job?" And it's obviously it's not a summer job. So to clarify, Dallas Summer Musicals has had that name for close to 60 years, I think. Although the organization has had 4 names in its lifetime. It's Dallas Summer Musicals. We do musicals, but we do a lot more too. So, some of the stuff that we're really proud of is the education and community partnerships work that we do. A lot of my background in this business has been using theater in educational settings. And so we were talking about, how do we use what I always referred to as the gift of Broadway, this wonderful gift we have, to bring it to classrooms and help students learn not only the arts, but also STEM disciplines. So we built out a program, and we're working with school districts, we're working with community centers, and finding ways to creatively use the arts to help students learn. I'll mention that the thing that's very exciting right now for me is we just started a partnership with Dallas Independent School District. So it's the first formal agreement we've had with the ISD. And our most recent project was related to Hamilton, where we brought in kids from schools all over Dallas and particularly around Fair Park and in our service area to see Hamilton. And in the 4 weeks leading up to that, we sent teaching artists into the classroom to work with students. And the focus of the program was not necessarily learning how to sing, dance, and direct shows. The purpose of the program was to use the theater to teach kids about business. So they had an opportunity to learn about marketing and advertising, and the kids got to create their own marketing campaigns for the shows. And we brought software into their classrooms and computers into their classrooms to help them do that. It was remarkable. The TD Jakes Foundation, Frito-Lay, lots of sponsorship supporting these young people doing this work. When I got here in 2017, the organization had a wonderful program called the High School Musical Theater Awards. It's a program that is national. It brings in high school students from all over North Texas and even into Oklahoma, celebrating their high school musical theater performances and bringing them into our theater for an opportunity to showcase their talent. It's also a contest. Those kids who win that contest, the singers and dancers and what have you, 2 people from each market around the country get to go to Broadway and compete in the National High School Musical Theater Awards in New York. So we've been sending students to that program and through our program for years now. I think we're 11 or 12 years into the program, and it's really great. I can't wait to hear what Mike has to say about this too, because Mike's very eloquent in what we're doing, not only in education but also in our other forms of art that you see on stage.
Yes, Mike.
Yeah, so I'm excited about using the beautiful music hall for things beyond what's traditionally been here, which is really nearly exclusively Broadway. So we are working with outside promoters to bring a whole array of concerts, comedy, spoken word events, anything that you can think of that can draw a crowd. So the music hall is utilized beyond the 12 to 14 weeks of Broadway that we'll do in the building every year. So in just the recent few months, we've had R&B artist Raheem Devon. We had Las Vegas magicians and philosophers Penn and Teller. We had a 2-show sold out engagement, 2 shows on the same night of comedian Hassan Minaj, and everything from electronic pop to classic rock to Spanish-speaking comedians coming in the next few months. And that's what's really got my blood pumping, is really activating the music hall. That's what I would add to the what do we do besides the summer.
Right. You know what I heard that really excites me, the idea that you're partnering with school districts and you have these educational components. It's so important for us to engage youth in the arts so that like all of us, we got engaged early and it stayed with us, and it's something that we're going to continue for the rest of our lives. And I really believe that's critical to keeping the arts audience alive for future generations. So, the fact that Frisco is going to have a performing arts center at Hall Park, and we've had some preliminary conversations with you, and you have such a breadth of experience between the two of you. What advice do you have for us as we go down this path of bringing a larger focus of the arts to Frisco, and then especially in this building? I mean, even operationally, because this hasn't been done before up here.
Sure, I'll talk broadly about it. My experience in opening a new performing arts center or working in a new performing arts center, what I find is that there's a really interesting curiosity factor that happens in a new building. I always say if you're running a theater and you're having trouble generating audiences, you either need to get a new artistic director or get a new building. And all of a sudden, you'll find that you have a lot more audiences coming back, because folks are interested in the arts. And what I've learned in my time in Dallas is there's incredible demand and interest and desire for various arts performances. And it's everything from high school performances through professional performances, community performances, whether it be music, theater, dance, opera. In terms of programming, there's a lot out there. And there's a lot of different ways you can go. There's a performing arts center model where you're working with different types of arts groups, as I mentioned before. Some organizations and some theaters will focus on one, just be more of an opera company or a theater company. But I think in a performing arts center, you have a wonderful opportunity there to present a variety of performances that will draw different types of audiences and connect people to the arts. So I'm really looking forward to how it's going to go. And you can count on me being at the first show, Tammy.
Wonderful. I can't wait. I mean, I really hope it happens soon. And Mike, what about you? What are your pieces of advice for us?
Well, moving back into the design and construction phase of the project, I would say don't scrimp on anything, as tempting as it may be. Having lived through the final year of construction at ATPAC and its first 10 years of operation, there were decisions made in advance of the construction that drastically impacted the practical operation of the building. And usually it comes down to money. Don't eliminate your kitchen. You're going to need a vibrant, functional kitchen. Don't underestimate the need for as many restrooms as you can possibly fit in the building.
Right.
Make sure you have ancillary entertainment spaces. Sometimes those get overlooked because you're going to want to do pre-event functions for donors, and you're going to want to have a convenient place for corporations to come and do pre-show parties. And perhaps the most important thing of all, make sure you have enough proximate parking to the building. It is the number one entitlement of entertainment audiences in this town. I think they'd rather stand and watch a show than have to park further away from the building. So make sure you have great access to the parking lot in and out and plenty of spots. So our number one fundraiser is up close parking. Our number one reason for people joining, besides supporting our mission-based education programs, is that they get better parking when they come to shows. So it really is quite an amazing hook.
Well, the bathroom issue, isn't there something like, you should have 5 times as many women bathrooms as men?
100%, yes. And for people who have come to the music hall over the last 18 months, we started this just pre-COVID. We've actually sequestered a portion of our men's room and turned it into a ladies' room just because of that ratio. So we put up curtains so that there's privacy happening, but we have 6 dedicated stalls in the men's room that are now converted into a permanent ladies' room just to make up for that gender gap in attendance.
Yeah, well, the parking thing too. That's a huge thing. People, I think you're right. The word entitlement is kind of funny, but it is true. People want to be very close, and then have that experience as soon as they get in the door, and then come back home. Like, all of it has to be beautiful and perfect. But
and they're willing to pay for it too. It's not like it's an expected free benefit, but
right. People pay lots of money to get a Broadway ticket, whether it's in New York or here. Why does Broadway command attention and this desire to, you've got to be there and you've got to see it? How would you answer that question?
Well, I'll talk about ticket price just a little bit, because I hear all the time, like, I'd love to go to the theater, but it's so expensive. And of course, we do everything we can to create access, what we call access pricing. So we have opportunity to come and see the shows at a lower ticket price, so that people across the economic spectrum can do it. I always want to have price points so everybody can be there. So there's some equity to that and access to that. I think that's really important. But the other thing that I talk about is sometimes people say to me, like, why are tickets so expensive? And then when I get there, you ask me for a donation. It's like, it's crazy. And I particularly for people who don't go to the theater regularly or go to movies a lot, the reality of it is that the theater is being created and produced the way that it was done 3,000 years ago in Greece. Like, it really hasn't changed much. It takes a ton of people. It takes a lot of equipment. It takes a lot of rehearsal. There's so much that goes in behind the scenes that people don't see. Oftentimes there is a cast of backstage folks that is bigger than the cast on stage. So there's things happening that people aren't aware of. We always say that when you come to the theater, your ticket price covers about 65% of the cost of actually creating that art. That's why we always ask folks, think about making a donation that's 35% more, right? So that would cover the cost of actually creating that art. The way theater's created, and the creativity that goes into that, with designers and directors and people hanging lighting instruments and all of these things, it's what really makes it art. It makes it special. It hasn't changed in all those years because there's something special about that, and that it's live and happening in front of you. So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question. It's kind of an indirect way of telling you that story, but there's some truth to that.
Mike, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, that's Ken nailed it from the producer entertainment purveyor standpoint. From the consumer standpoint, there has been a recent phenomenon, and there have been lots of articles written about this. It extends beyond Broadway to sports and concerts and other forms of entertainment. The basic gist is that the greatest generation, Gen X, those folks who are, let's say, 45 plus and have been beneficiaries of this super robust economy, have acquired all the physical things that they want and desire in their life. And so what they're looking to capture now is making new memories, new experiences, having exciting, exclusive outings with their friends and family. You talk about Broadway pricing being high. You look at face value tickets for some of these rock concerts that come through. The Rolling Stones at the Cotton Bowl was about $250 a ticket to sit in a giant stadium. Eric Clapton just came through at the arena in Fort Worth. First 10 rows were $1,500 per ticket, face value. So these older consumers who have all the stuff that they could ever want and imagine, they feel comfortable, are now looking to collect new experiences, maybe relive some memories from their youth, going to see things that are familiar to them from their life, entertainment experiences that are nostalgic. So I think that's playing into the pricing scenario as well.
That's an interesting thought. I had never heard it explained that way, but it totally makes sense. Mike, when I first met you, one of the things you said to me was more theater is better. And that's always stuck with me because I just realized how we're all in this together. I'm going to sound so cheesy, but it is true. We all help each other, and we want to see the arts flourish wherever it is.
I second Mike on that. The more theater, the better. If someone goes to see a show up there, they're going to come to us next. It's like, that's how it works. So we're well, you already know, we're fully supportive of what you guys are doing. This is such a welcoming place, and the folks are so interested in what we're doing in arts and culture. When we're working hard to bring the best of Broadway and other performances here to Texas, I think about all those audiences members, cheering when we reopened. It really drives me forward because I know how important and meaningful it is to people. It's so evident, and it just makes you feel good when you're in the arts and you're able to create these performances for folks.
I mean, I'm so proud of you both. Like everything you're doing at DSM, and I mean, leading in so many different ways. I mean, it's just incredible. And so thank you both for your support through the years. And thanks to the audience for tuning in again to learn about Dallas Summer Musicals. Here's their website. If you want to learn more about them and what's coming up next, I think it's Jersey Boys. So check out Dallas Summer Musicals, and thank you again both for your time, and we'll see you at the next episode.
Bye, Tammy.
Yeah.
Ken, while we were having our board meeting at Baker McKenzie yesterday, Tammy was across the chasm at the Museum Tower playing a gig at someone's apartment.
Oh, how funny. Wow.
I know.
Literally at the exact moment. Isn't that
That's
crazy?
so funny. I wasn't in someone's apartment. I was in the lobby. Well, not the
Oh,
lobby, but
lobby.
they have a special room where they have a Steinway piano from the Clyburn competition. So
Wow.
it was this gorgeous piano that I just didn't want to stop playing. So I sat there for 3 hours and did not take a break.
Well, there's our
great.
piano back there. I don't know if you can see
Oh, wow.
Oh,
What kind
nice.
of piano is that?
it. You know what? I'm not a piano player, so I don't even know what kind. I could go over there and look at it, but
It actually belonged to one of Coy's best friend's grandmother.
Oh,
So it's a
wow.
really old piano, but we had it tuned up, and she plays, and my daughter plays, and so it's really fun, to see them playing on this like kind of a classic, old piano. It's really cool.
Yeah,
Little
no,
baby grand in the corner.
that is great. Have her keep playing.